The streets are talking. You are now listening to The Box Out, tri-state area basketball talk at its best. And now your hosts, Kahlil Thomas and Jason Cordner. Let's get it.
NJ to BK in the world. This is The Box Out here on the Just Who Talk channel on YouTube. My name is Kahlil Thomas. Jason Cordner is always joining me. What's up, brother?
What's going on? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I had that second shot yesterday. My arm is sore as hell right now.
Oh, man, listen. Don't get me started because I'm like on the fence. I'm a little worried because I told you I got the Johnson & Johnson about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, so I got the Johnson & Johnson, but no side effects yet. So I feel like I'm out the wind.
All right. Well, my wife got hers today,
Okay.
and she's laid up right now.
Damn.
So
You're
damn.
going to be laid up tomorrow. You should be laid up
I feel good. I got it yesterday. I woke up this morning. I'm like, I'm good. I'm straight. I'm like, hey, I'm cool. Let's go. People I know got the second shot. They're like, I was in bed for like days. I was like, damn, like, am I? Like, I'm invincible to this shit all of a sudden. I don't know. It's just me. So we got to start. We're going to the WWE Draft a little bit later because our girl from Rutgers is slipping. I don't know what's going on. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
I thought the Liberty were going to grab her 6.
Listen, she fell right to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't get her. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I got to start with our opening tip. Here's the deal. All right. Jason and I talk about the Nets every week on this show. All right. It's a thing. The Nets played the Lakers on Saturday night on national TV. Without LeBron, without AD. I think Kuzma didn't play either. It was like the B squad and Andre Drummond. With that team that the Lakers put out, they beat the Nets.
Beat the brakes.
Beat the brakes off the Nets. Let's add that in because that's important. They played Minnesota on Tuesday in a makeup game for Monday. Game got canceled. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well, why things are going on. And then they played the Sixers last night, which also we'll get to later because there's kind of a rivalry going on there.
Mm-hmm.
In a game that the Sixers really should have won by like 20 points, but they kind of blew it and kind of took their foot off the brakes a little bit last night. However, I will say this. In that LA game, what I saw, Jason, was a team that lacked the necessary toughness that I think they need to win a championship. I feel like with the Lakers and who they put out there last Saturday night, Drummond beat them up. Drummond got a putback over Aldridge and did the little thing, like, again, it's too small. That was a thing with this team, right? They got rid of Jared Allen. They got rid of Taurean Prince. Karis LeVert had a little bit of dog in them too. Mm-hmm. They got rid of all the guys that had that dog, and now this is what we have left. My question to you is, are the Nets tough enough to win the NBA title?
I want to say no, they're not tough enough to win the title. They are tough. You know what the Nets remind me of? It's like if we, I got to start off with.
Oh, okay, here we go.
It's like Milwaukee think they're the bully. The Nets could probably pick on Milwaukee, and that's about it. I don't think Boston will be intimidated by them. I know Philadelphia is not, and I know Miami's not. I think they'll get over punking the Bucks, and that's about it. I don't see this team coming out the Eastern Conference. And before I was like, well, maybe the big three will get it together. We know they only played 7 games together. Maybe their offense will be enough. But we've always known this in all sports. You cannot win championship just by offense alone. You got to play a little bit of defense. And the Nets play none. Not even a little bit. They play none. So I don't.
Yeah, I think the last count was 23rd in defensive rating in the league.
Yeah,
and
not get it done in the playoffs.
No, not in the playoffs. Especially when Jackie McMullen made a good point on Bill Simmons' podcast. She was like, how the Nets could be its great team, but we don't know what they are because they're never together.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
They've literally played all 3 together, and the team itself, I think it was like 7 games or something like that was the number. They played 7 games together. We don't know when all 3 of them are consistently playing every game. No rest days, no Kyrie taking personal days, no Harden being hurt, no time load management for KD. what exactly is this team? We don't know that question. So, it's easy. And I know someone's on the comments making every excuse known to man. So we got Joe Keating on the line. No Harden, no KD, no Blake, no AL. Talking about LaMarcus Aldridge. And he goes, Aldridge dealing with heart murmurs. So I feel like it's going to be one of these things where it's like, Harden's hurt. Oh, okay,
but
Kyrie's has some stuff.
Harden's the only one that's really hurt. The rest of these guys, it's on them a little bit. Like KD should have known. KD wants to pop off with everybody outside in the NBA. Here's an opportunity. You could have went up against Philadelphia. You didn't have to play Monday against Minnesota, considering you didn't play Sunday because the game it got postponed. So that was 2 days you could have rested up right there. But you chose not to. You chose to play the lesser of the two evils. So, I'm not feeling like if I was to sell stocks in the Nets, I still wouldn't give it to Milwaukee. But I'm telling you, I think on Miami or Boston, see them in the first round, it's problematic.
So what you're saying is the Nets are like a Doge coin right now?
A little less than Dogecoin, but
Well, it's one of those things that I know, and I had a conversation with Justin Henry here, who's also on Just Hoop Talk, the creator, and I get tired of talking about the Nets because it's the same thing every week. Kyrie took a personal day, Harden's out, KD's on a minutes restriction, and Steve Nash said he doesn't care about seeding. He cares about the playoffs and making sure the guys are healthy. Okay, cool, but when it comes down to you and Philly in the conference finals, you don't have home court. And we're talking about a month and a half, 2 months away. There's going to be a lot more fans in the stands. And then now home court doesn't seem like a big deal because there's no one there, really, technically. The deeper we go into the playoffs, they're going to lessen that up a little bit and let more and more people in. That's when home court kind of kicks in. I just feel like they're treating everybody with kid gloves. And Kyrie, listen, and I think I texted you this. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I am. Something might be going on. Someone's sick. I listen. Something in his head. Whatever. But at some point, you got to tell us what's going on. Because I get 3 personal days a year. 3. I used all of them already.
Same here.
This dude's taking like 6 or 7. I'm like, yo, like at some point
we passed 6 or 7. He's like on 10.
And I'm like, yo, you lost some cash last time, and you got fined on top of that. What's really happening? Like, let us know. Not to pry, but you should let us know what's going on with you right now.
What's the funny thing about all of this is that they're getting the national headline attention, like all the dysfunction in the Nets. They're lucky the Knicks are playing above water, or else they would have been the number one focal out here in the city, but they're not. So they kind of get a pass for that. So they're like their own little bubble. So Kyrie's not hearing the noise because he's in the bubble of the tri-state area. So all that noise outside, they're not really hearing too much of it. But I'm telling you, I don't see a good playoff run for the Nets. I don't see it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the playoff matchups if the playoffs start today later on. But I just don't see this toughness. I feel like, and LaMarcus Aldridge had to retire suddenly today because of a regular heartbeat. Shout out to LaMarcus Aldridge and his career. But you had, Aldridge, he wasn't like, the Morris twins, but he had a little bit of toughness. He had that old man toughness that you don't have now. So now it falls back on Nicholas Claxton. And it's going to fall back on old-ass DeAndre Jordan. and listen, DeAndre Jordan's a step slow. Claxton's game, as much as I've seen him the last month, is not as vast as everyone seems to think it is. It's very, very limited. So if Claxton went from playing 24 minutes down to 12 minutes when Aldridge came in, he's going to go back to playing 24, maybe more over DeAndre Jordan. That's not good for them.
No, that's going to be a problem.
And who is the resident tough guy on Brooklyn right now?
Whew.
Good question.
I'm going to say KD because his Twitter fingers are off the hook. So by default, I'm going to say KD.
On Twitter, big man. On the floor. Listen, no, KD, when he plays. And I think I got to make that clear. When James Harden, with the exception of the Houston thing, which still kind of bothers me how he kind of quit on him, Harden's been perfect in Brooklyn. Kyrie, when he's playing, he's good. When KD's on the floor, KD is the best player in the NBA at certain moments. But has a unit all together, we don't know how they're going to play. How is Joe Harris going to react to not ever touching the ball? Will Nicholas Claxton be able to get under the basket and wait for an alley from Kyrie and James Harden? I don't know if that can happen.
Nope. And the
So
way about it, they're waiting for the playoffs to make that happen, and that usually doesn't happen.
Especially with the playoffs, everything stops. And teams aren't going up and down the floor in like this breakneck speed. Everything's going to slow down and bog down, which suits a team like Philadelphia, which gets us to his next point. Ben Simmons, who honestly doesn't really have much to talk about at this point in his career, had some words to say about the Nets and their budding rivalry. So this was on, I believe, Tuesday night before the game last night. So here is Ben Simmons on the Nets.
Hey, Ben. A question about your upcoming opponent, the Brooklyn Nets. Do you feel that this rivalry with you guys and the Nets could become one of the premier ones in the league when it comes to rivalries?
This season or just in general?
In the future, for this season in the future.
Rivalry, if they keep that same team, definitely, but, it's going to be hard to do that. But, no, we're going for the past champs, the Lakers. They were the ones who won the championship, so you got to give respect to them. Obviously, Brooklyn has a lot of talent, but at the end of the day, there's only one ball. You got to play defense too. So, we gotta come in prepared mentally.
At the end of the day, it's only one ball, and you got to play defense. How much shit talking was that, and how much truth was behind that statement from Ben Simmons?
Oh, it was. I would say it was about 60% shit talking, 40% truth, or you can flip it either way because it is only one ball, but. That's not their problem. The problem is defense. But how ironic, it's the point guard who can't shoot that make that comment about the one ball. But
Joe Keating, hey Ben, hit a three. I'll wait.
Exactly, hit a three.
Well, listen, Ben Simmons, at the end of the day, I think I said this a few weeks ago, Ben Simmons is who we think he is. Like he's who he is. Like Ben Simmons is not gonna hit a three. He's not gonna try to shoot a three. But one thing I've noticed in the last about 2 seasons, his defense has gotten better.
Right.
So it's almost like you have to kind of forget about the lack of threes and focus on the other things, like the defense. He's going for Defensive Player of the Year. He said he's going for that, which I know Joel Embiid wants too. So that's another thing in their rivalry right there. But the game last night, there was I had a couple questions about Steve Nash's rotation because you saw the Nets making that run at the end of the game. Where was Kyrie?
Good point.
Where was the people on the floor at the time was like, wow, okay, this is who you're going with. Okay, because you already knew no Harden, no Durant. Kyrie was playing. I don't know if he was on the minutes limit, which I'm assuming he was.
Probably was.
How much longer can Steve Nash go with this minutes limit thing? At some point, you got to pull the trigger and go, guys, you got to get out there and play. I got to see what we have right now.
I don't know it's one of those things, but they're just trying to figure it out on the win. But if you know your guys are not going to be available like that, you should loosen up the rotation. Let other guys play, see what you got. I don't know what what he's trying to do here, but it's like they really didn't take that game seriously. And that's also a problem for me. Like they just, they hit a switch whenever they want to play.
And you can't listen, you win on a championship, that switch has got to be turned on. The best teams that win championships play with like a chip constantly and always going to play hard, no matter who they play. Right? Every game is a championship game. Every game is a playoff game. And I feel like the Nets we got Minnesota. Philly's for the number 1 seed in the East, but it's early. We don't really care about that right now. I'm like, yeah, you should care about it.
Care about it. Actually, that was a tiebreaker game, so there you go.
Exactly. So Philly has a tiebreaker for home court, even though for some reason no one seems to care about home court advantage all of a sudden. Like, oh yeah, well, we don't really care if we want to, sleep in our own beds the night before a game. I don't understand how home court has become like this thing where we can still win without it. It's not a bubble situation when everyone's not in the same playing field this time. Like, it's a lot different. So we'll see. We'll keep talking about it because at some point the Nets got to figure this out and get it together. The last Nets story. I know we're gone 15 minutes in the Nets. I hate this so much. Dr. J comparing the Nets to the evil empire of the New York Yankees, which I enjoyed because I hate the Yankees. Essentially comparing them to the Yankees and buying a championship. Here's Dr. J and Stephen A. Smith's reaction to Dr. J's comments.
NBA legend Julius Erving, who didn't mince words on the Inside the Green Room podcast with Danny Green when discussing the current super team in Brooklyn. He said, quote, "It's reminiscent of how the Yankees used to do it all the time. They load up, they call it buying a championship. The Lakers are known for doing that too. They're getting all these pieces. They don't know at the end of the season what it's going to look like or what it's going to feel like, but they're going to be formidable. You've got a team with 6 former All-Stars and 3 All-NBA guys who have been there and succeeded in the playoffs." Stephen A., are Dr. J's comments fair or foul?
I kind of think they're foul, believe it or not. I don't necessarily agree with that. Number one, if you're going to say something like that, say it when LeBron did it and he went to Miami. Say it when LeBron and AD joined last year. I didn't hear Dr. J saying that then. Number two, here's why I don't compare it to the Yankees. You see, when it comes to Harden, Max, or when it comes to Kyrie, or when it comes to KD, as you have stated on many occasions, Max, they're going to get their money. They're going to get their money no matter who you play for. The money was those exact dollars was coming. Kyrie was going to get that max $141 million. KD was going to get his max. James Harden turned down the additional 2 years and $103 million from Houston. Okay.
So can you compare what the Nets are doing, and not just with KD, Kyrie, and Harden, but picking up Aldridge, picking up Blake Griffin? Can you not just compare them to what the Heat did, but also compare them to the Yankees in the 90s and early 2000s?
I don't compare it to the Yankees. The Yankees are definitely buying a championship, but at the same time, they had their core that came from their farm system. I think with the Lakers and the Nets, it was pretty much a situation where they spend well in free agency and they had assets and they traded those assets away. No different than any other, dynasty beforehand. Did the Warriors really need KD? They signed him as a free agent. They got rid of Harrison Barnes and they got rid of some other, other guys on the roster and pretty much loaded up with veteran minimum guys. I just think the buyout market is the buyout market. And if I'm getting bought out and I made my money, why not go to a contender? You're not gonna get bought out and then want to go play for the Bulls. No offense, things like that. So I kind of see Stephen A's point a little bit, but I also do agree that Dr. J. This has been happening since any championship era outside of the Bulls. You could pretty much say this has been happening for the last 20 years.
Yeah, and the comparison is always to those 80s teams with the Lakers, with Magic, Worthy.
All drafted.
Celtics, Bird, McHale, Parrish, Dennis Johnson, drafted. The Sixers were Dr. J, Moses Malone. Dr. J was a different situation because he came from the New York Nets, Long Island Nets, whatever. But besides Dr. J, the Sixers was all drafted. A lot of those teams in the 80s were all homegrown guys. Free agency wasn't this massive thing that we know of today. The Bulls got Jordan and Pippen, and then these surrounding parts that just kind of worked with what they're doing. Right. And they were able to kind of interchange them. When B.J. Armstrong left, you got Ron Harper, right? When John Paxson left, you got another white guy and Steve Kerr. They just able to kind of pick and choose. I feel like now, no fault to the players, the situation's changed. The environment's changed. So you take advantage of the environment you have now, which is, I'm going to go play with my friend. Okay, cool, go.
Yeah, like I said, you bore me out. I'm not going to go play in Memphis or Chicago. I'm going to one of the top teams trying to win a championship.
And at this point, and I know what KD said. I was going to get that audio, but it just wasn't worth my time. KD's not about rings. He's about development. I'm like, dude, you about 30. What development you still do? The chase is the ring. If you're playing the NBA, me personally, and tell me if I'm wrong, if you agree, if you disagree, but I feel like the chase should be getting a ring. At this age in your career, at this point in your career, you should be trying to get championships, not develop your game. Your game is developed. You're one of the best players in the NBA in the world. Why isn't a ring your number one priority?
I think it's not his number one priority because of the dynasty he was in Golden State, but he's kidding himself. He wants to bring a championship to New York, so he's kidding himself about that.
If anything, for your legacy, you bring a championship to a New York team not called the Knicks, to a borough that's not Manhattan, it's Brooklyn. I feel like that adds to your legacy. So I feel like, shouldn't that be a thing instead of you figuring out how to hit a jump shot more efficiently? Shouldn't that be your concern?
It's the same way LeBron. Had LeBron not gone back to Cleveland and won the championship, it kind of changes things a little bit. We look at him as just a hired mercenary, but that he went back home and delivered on his promise. I think KD has to do that. He has to win a championship outside of the Warriors if he wants to be considered in that LeBron tier of talent.
So right now, talking about Cleveland, they're up 15-6 on Golden State in the first quarter. So that's happening in Cleveland. On TNT right now, hopefully you're watching the game and you have us on in the background. That's the best way to watch TNT Thursday. Milwaukee up 42-37 on Atlanta in the second quarter. Later on tonight, you got Lakers-Boston also on TNT, and also Sacramento-Phoenix. Talking about the Western Conference, we had a major injury. Jamal Murray, torn ACL, out for the year, out for part of next year, most likely. How does this affect Denver? Because Denver picked up JaVale McGee and Aaron Gordon has those ancillary pieces to Murray and to Jokic. What happens now?
Now it's going to be a crapshoot. I'm hearing they're closing in on Austin Rivers. That helps a little bit, but it's not because you gave up so much backcourt depth to get Aaron Gordon. That's where it hurts. But I think Jokic should definitely pick up the slack. I think they could weather the storm, but I had them coming out the Western Conference. I think a loaded Denver Nuggets with a healthy Murray, they would have been enough to get past the Lakers. Now I don't see that no more. Now I think their ceiling is probably the second round.
So right now, as of our show, they're 35-20. They're fourth in the West. The Lakers are a game behind them. Portland is 4 games behind them. I can see them falling
6?
Probably 6. I think 6 is probably their ceiling. I don't think Dallas is going to catch them. But I think, listen, a 3-6 matchup with the Clippers, they may not make it out of that one.
Who wants payback? Payback?
And with playoff Rondo, they're not getting past that series. Without Jamal Murray, I feel like, and really bigger question, does this affect Jokic's MVP hopes too? Because I feel like without Murray, more focus defensively will be on him, and his numbers may suffer because you don't have Murray to play off of.
I think you're right a little bit. I think you're right. I think this might hurt us a little bit, but I think he can hold down the fort for the next couple of weeks and hold it down. And I think he's ahead of Embiid just enough where it should be his to lose.
My biggest issue with this is now Aaron Gordon was playing okay because the focus wasn't on him. He was in Orlando having to carry offense. Heat check Aaron Gordon is scary because he's going to start feeling it and he can start shooting. And he's like a 24% three-point shooter. And it's like Philip Seymour Hoffman in that movie where he's just raindrop, just hitting, just shooting and missing. That's going to be Aaron Gordon. And I feel like that could be a detriment to Denver down the line. So Jokic can hold the fort down, but can he hold Aaron Gordon down from not shooting that much?
Oh, good luck with that.
that's going to be tough. Well, speaking of Dallas, it's something interesting. Right now, Dallas is 7 in the West. So 7, they're in the play-in games. Both Luka Doncic and Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, complained about this play-in game situation that they're currently in. Is this legitimate heat that they have with the play-in system, or is it because they're in 7th and they got to participate in the play-in system?
All this has everything to do with them being in 7th, and pretty much they're pretty much locked into 7 or 8. I don't see them catching 5, 6. So they're gonna have to play that play-in game, and they should be fine. They have the horses, but the Western Conference is brutal. So do I really want to see a New Orleans or Memphis as an opponent in a play-in game? Probably not, but I think Dallas has enough to get past it. Which is funny because I think Cuban was up for this. He was signed on board early.
He voted for it. But now they're the 7th seed, and things have changed a little bit. So my concern is right now, I think the 7 to 8 is 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9. I think is what they're gonna do. So right now, as of this show, Dallas is 7, San Antonio is 10.
Ooh.
Now, I will say this about Dallas: they played really, really well as of late. I think they won like 8 of their last 10. 7 of their last 10. They're good, but they're also very streaky. If you look at San Antonio, if they get in to the play-in, I feel like that might be out of Dallas, Memphis, and Golden State. San Antonio, I think, is the most dangerous of those 4 teams to get into the actual playoffs. Because I really do feel like San Antonio with Popovich, and he has a young squad, but they're well coached. Like, they're young, but they know what they're doing. I feel like San Antonio could upset a lot of these teams and come right up and get Utah in the first round.
Now, you bring up a good point, because what are the chances of a 9-10 actually making a playoff? I know in the East, not so much. I don't think the Bulls or Toronto can catch anybody 7th or 8th if they played one game, a tournament. Out West is a different story. So, like you said, the San Antonio can upset somebody. Memphis can upset somebody. It's a crapshoot. So I kind of
Golden State. You catch Steph 2 straight games.
Exactly.
Him by himself will kill you.
So yeah,
and now
frustration out from Dallas.
And even without Golden State without James Wiseman, he's out for the rest of the season now. So now Wiseman wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire either. Right. So I think him being out isn't really a big deal, to be honest. I don't want to discount his contribution. But I can see Golden State and San Antonio getting out. You give Steph 2 games. Okay, Steph, can you carry us? Okay. And he will. No doubt in my mind he can. Golden State, they play team ball. Golden State's like the Dallas Mavericks that beat the Miami Heat for the first year of that triad. So I can totally see Dallas just not making the real playoffs and getting bumped out into play-in games.
That'd be brutal. Be great for Knicks stock. It'll be great for Knicks draft stock, but it'd be brutal for Dallas.
But I don't understand with Dallas, because Mark Cuban is such a good owner. He takes care of his players. He loves to play. He's down for them, especially what's going on in the world in this country. He's down with them. Why doesn't nobody want to play for Dallas? Why is the Mavericks is not a destination? Texas, no taxes. Why isn't Dallas the destination?
I think it's something to do with the city. It has to do with the city. It has to be the city, because the same could be said about the Cowboys. Where, like, they always have to overpay to get players. So I want to say it's the city.
But I would think Dallas. I'm assuming Houston's the cooler of the two.
Right, Houston's the cooler of the two.
Okay, so Dallas is like.
Yeah.
Dallas is like Dallas, like the TV show Dallas.
Pretty much. Whereas Houston's right there, New Orleans is right there. It's a party city. I get it.
Yeah, I always feel, I don't know why I feel bad, because, the Cowboys, I hate the Cowboys. But I always feel like, Cuban can't get any free agents. Like, I know he picked up Boban, but that was about it. That was the last real big free agent pickup they got, which I love Boban. So we talk about the West, let's talk about the East, and we talk about the Knicks now, because the Knicks, with their big win last night over New Orleans, and we talked to my dad, you hit me up, and then my dad hit me up. Yo, kid, the Knicks are really good. I'm like, I know that. Right now, they're 6th in the East, so they're out of the play-in game for now. So congratulations to the New York Knicks. But Miami's right behind them. You got Charlotte, Miami 7, Charlotte 8, Indiana 9, Chicago 10. Chicago won't win a game in the play-in.
No.
Indiana, is it me, or did Indiana get worse when Karis LeVert came back?
They did get worse because the ball stopped. His scoring is going up, but the ball stopped moving a little bit.
Did he get a little bit of that Kyrie from him when he was in Brooklyn? And
absolutely. He went to Indiana and was like, I'm better than Victor Oladipo. He's not even here no more. There's no one really in my way to stop me from jacking up shots. So he got that. Kyrie got to him. And
Sabonis is standing there like this. It's like, am I getting the ball back?
Exactly. That's exactly how Sabonis has looked in the post.
So right now, if the playoffs started today, it will be Milwaukee, New York in the first round. Now, as much as you hate Milwaukee, I still think Milwaukee win that series in 5.
Okay.
Would you agree?
I would say I would push back a little bit, because if they could bully Giannis in the paint, it could be for a compelling series.
So you would just throw Mitchell Robinson, Nerlens Noel, maybe throw Obi Toppin at him and just say, go get him.
Just go get him. But like you said, I'm going 5 or 6 for Milwaukee. I'll give the Knicks 2 wins.
I'm surprised you're still going with Milwaukee. I'm like, yeah, Milwaukee's getting swept, because you really don't like Milwaukee.
I saved that for Miami, well, not the Nets. Miami or Philly. I'll save that. That's when they'll get swept.
So right now, obviously, we don't know the 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7 matchup as of yet. But right now, the playoffs ended. Milwaukee Knicks, Atlanta, Boston would be your 4-5. That's interesting only because you have Boston, who's extremely streaky. You don't know what Boston you're going to get. If Tatum has an off night or Brown has an off night, or they both have an off night, you're screwed.
Yeah.
But Atlanta, with Nate McMillan, don't forget about Lloyd Pierce. Lloyd Pierce, and I'm going to give him all the credit in the world. He put this team together. He got them going. I don't know if they need a new voice, but Lloyd Pierce should be the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
But Nate McMillan's kind of doing the job right now. If that was a series, would you have Atlanta Boston? Who would you have?
I would only take Boston by a hair, and it'll probably be a 7-game series.
Okay. I don't, because Bogdanovich has really played a really big role in this, though. I feel like he adds a dimension. Gallinari is amazing too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have shooters. I feel like if you can't close out on those guys, especially Trae Young will shoot from half court every time on court, and he'll make it. I feel like Boston's biggest issue is defense. They can score, but stopping people is kind of an issue.
Yep.
And I feel like if you can't close out on Atlanta shooters, you're going to have a tough time. I feel like that is going to be the entire series. Atlanta just jacking shots up.
Yep.
And Tatum and Brown Tatum and Brown being exhausted the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the West, we can talk about matchups in the West. It would be, let's bring up my computer here. The 3-6 Clippers, Portland. 4-5 Denver Lakers right now. So the Lakers would go past Denver without Jamal Murray. Your 3-6 would be the Clippers and Portland. What would you do with that?
I might still take the Clippers.
Okay. So you're banking on Rondo being the factor in the Clippers getting together.
Yeah, everywhere he's gone, he's been a factor. That one time the Pelicans made out the first round, it was Rondo. The time when Chicago should have gotten out the first round, it was Rondo. He helped the Lakers win the championship last year. I'm on board for playoff Rondo. I think he trumps everything. He trumps the history of the Clippers. I think he gets them at least to the second round.
All right, interesting. Now, obviously, this will change between now and probably next Thursday. So we'll keep you posted every single week of the playoff races in the Eastern and West Conference. The NBA released a data study that shows that players needing to miss games because of injuries are down from last season and within a normal range for what the league has seen over the last 5 seasons. They said the injury rate is down about 6%. How much do you believe that study? Because I don't see it.
I don't see it. And I feel like injuries have gone up, but at the same time, load management is going up too. So I can see where that study might get false information. So
I feel like you're right. I feel like guys missing games because of injuries might be down, but players who aren't playing because they're on a load management schedule is definitely up, especially those teams that were in the bubble deep last year. Yep. So I think that didn't take into account all that stuff. So I think this study's trying to show that, oh yeah, we brought him back really early, but it's all good. Everyone's healthy when no one's really healthy. Exactly. So yeah, I hate to say I don't believe the NBA because the NFL, I don't believe a word Roger Goodell says. I don't believe a word the NFL says at all. The NBA is not at that point with me right now, but I think since last season ended in the bubble, they're starting to get to that point with me because they kind of forced this season down their throats and forced them to come back so quick and so early that I do think these players are hurting, and you don't know it because they're taking these games off. But this is not a conducive environment for them to succeed and be around long term playing on these games in such a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, like, when we ever get back to some kind of normalcy, when will the next season start? If this season's going to end in July, or we're going back to October, November, or are we going to do this again like Christmas, which I think ideally might be the better time to start.
Well, apparently they're saying they're going to start. They're going to start on time next year. That's the plan. I'm like, okay. So they're saying October, like mid-October, late October. I'm like, you okay? Listen, guys, do you? But be prepared for pushback because it's going to happen. All right, WNBA Draft. I'm trying to keep up as we're talking. I have it on in front of me right now. And did Ariella get picked?
I want to say she did. I didn't see where she landed, but
I'm trying to get the ticker up, but I'm shocked. Here's the thing with the Liberty and Sabrina Ionescu, one of the best point guards in the world by far. You made some trades to get some height, get some depth. You traded Kia Nurse, who was your starting shooting guard, so you needed a shooting guard. Ariella Garates is a volume shooter, a volume scorer for Rutgers. She fell to them. I think it was number 5 in the first round of the WNBA draft, and they went right past her and picked up a 3. They picked a small forward who they really didn't need, but they picked her up anyway. Thoughts on that one?
Shout out to her grandma and mom dancing. When
Grandma was getting down. Grandma was getting low. I was like, whoa.
She was getting low, so shout out to her. I just think the Liberty going to be playing pick and roll basketball. And I think that's their game plan. They're going to rely on their forwards and they rely on the wings, and that's how they're pretty much going to run it.
Which is fine, but I feel like in that league, you need some shooters.
You do.
And they traded a lot of their shooters. They let a lot of their shooters go. And the biggest issue they had in the Wubble last year, they couldn't score. Right? Once Sabrina went down, that was a problem. Kia Nurse missed a lot of games in the Wubble. That was an issue. They lucked out with Amanda Zawi and how much she scored, but she's not the type of scorer where she's going to drop 20 a game. And she developed a jump shot, which I was like, oh shit, she's hitting threes now. She
dropped all the way to 22 to the Sparks.
22. Wow. Now I got to write an article about her later and say she went 22. They went to the second round. I mean, the Sparks are kind of starting over without Candace Parker. She went back home to Chicago. So she's going to a right spot where there's a lot of veterans. She can kind of sit. She can kind of learn a little bit. And eventually, I kind of like Essence Carson, who I went to high school with, kind of like what happened with her. I think she came to LA, the Liberty, and she did a lot of sitting and watching, and she became an all-star player. So same thing here. Listen, essentially, Charlie Collier, she went number 1, like we said. The Dallas Wings, top 2 picks, they got bigs. And then they got another big later with the 4th pick. So Dallas is going all in. Dallas shot the most threes. They made the most threes last year. And I'm like, okay, we're going to kind of figure out the inside game. So I think Dallas might be that most improved team next year based on what they did tonight so far.
Yeah, they did a great job rebuilding through the draft quickly, too. I mean, that's what happens when you have like 3 of the first 6 picks.
And he had another pick and he traded it. I forgot they had 4 first-round picks.
Yeah.
And they traded to LA. So now they got another first-round pick next year.
Yep.
So Dallas is doing big. And listen, I feel like they knew once they lost Liz Cambridge a couple years ago, they were going to rebuild.
Yeah.
She was the league MVP. She was scoring 25 a game. They knew they were going to have to go rebuild. So I think they're like, okay, we got to go real. I think last year was more of like, for a lot of teams, last year was like, okay, we got to go to this bubble, blah, blah, blah. I think they came out of the bubble knowing, okay, we have to rebuild for real now. And I think that's what they're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
With the Liberty, I don't. Yes, she's from Rutgers. I feel bad. Ariella Garates fell that far, and she's from Rutgers, so it's a little home cooking. But for what she did in Big Ten basketball, for what she brought, 20 points a game, great court vision. I'm still shocked that she fell that far.
Yeah, I'm shocked that what's her name went 3rd to the Atlanta Dream. Like her stock.
Oh, Ari McDonald.
Her stock rose so much during the tournament. It's crazy.
Yeah, because I think she was like, I think they're talking to her like second round.
Right.
Before the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But to go 3 to Atlanta, and listen, new ownership, you know, she's going to the right place. I feel like if you want to play anywhere in WNBA right now, it would probably be Atlanta with the Dream. Mm-hmm. But yeah, her stock definitely went up there. Yeah, I'm shocked. There was a couple other picks that I wasn't expecting. But the Liberty pick especially, I was not expecting them to go with a big again. Like that was, you don't need a 3. I think they have like 3 or 4 threes already on their team. Like there's no need for any of that. Just loading up. So I want to talk a little bit about Shannon Sharpe.
Oh boy.
So Shannon Sharpe,
Club Shay Shay,
was blocked on Twitter, which I've had the privilege of being blocked on Twitter a couple times, so I'm pretty proud of that, by KD for reading a quote that was attributed to KD, but it didn't come from KD, like at all. But Shannon Sharpe, because he don't know any better, read it. KD went at him. Shannon Sharpe blocked him and said, "If you want to talk to me, talk to me."
Mm-hmm.
Here's my question. Who's wrong in this situation? Because Shannon Sharpe read this quote that was didn't come from Kevin Durant. It came from someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
But then Durant blocks him without explaining, "Yo, that wasn't me." Should Kevin Durant be like, "Yo, you need to cut this shit out," or should he kind of fall back a little bit more? Because I feel like we keep hearing more and more about these Twitter beefs, and the more you hear it, the worse it looks for Kevin Durant. Even though in this part he wasn't wrong.
That's the thing. He wasn't wrong in this part, but he's the common denominator in all these Twitter battles. Like, you would think after what happened with Michael Rappaport, he would calm down a little bit on social media. Nope, he's doubling down. So it's one of those fortunate situations. Maybe, do you think this might be a league mandated eventually? Not now, but maybe down the line, to keep your social media postings to a minimum during the season, even if you're healthy or sidelined? I think we're heading that way, and then you consider how much. I just feel like we're heading that way, and I think LeBron has the best social media approach. When it gets to playoff time or near it, he goes
shuts it down. Which I don't want to say the league should put rules on how much social media you use. I feel like that's kind of now you're getting to a whole different situation.
Okay.
I feel like it's got to be more of the player's discretion, and obviously we've learned some of these players have no discretion.
None.
When it comes to getting wings, when it comes to Twitter, there's no discretion. Should there be a rule? I mean, I think Durant getting fined might have set something in motion where they're like, "Yo, we're serious. Like, cut this shit out. Like, we don't want this." I think that might help curb a little bit of this Twitter stuff. But having the NBA it's like David Stern mandating the dress code. That didn't go over that well.
It didn't go over well.
No. So I feel like you can't do that, but I do feel you can penalize them. And when you start messing with their money, then they'll start listening. And I think that's the big thing right now. Mess with their money, they're like, okay, we won't do it no more. College basketball, ESPN always puts this out, and I have to talk about it. They put out the way too early top 25 college basketball rankings in April, literally right after the championship game. And this poll is always, it's a case of, hey, right now, based on what we just saw, this is what we think. Has, example, Gonzaga, number 1 for next year already, UCLA, number 2. So I think this is an example of this. Oh my God, we saw this great game between these two teams. They're definitely 1 and 2. Or is this legit? Like, UCLA might be the second best team in the country. I
don't want to say that they could be up there next year. It's like I said, it's way too early. But if we're gonna do it by the eye test, yeah, you probably put them 1 and 2 right now.
I mean, and the rest of it is not. It's not awful. I think UCLA at 2 kind of bugs me because I do feel like that was they're a victim of the moment. Purdue at 3, Ohio State 4, Kansas 5 because Kansas is always in the top 10. Maryland 6, Villanova 7, Alabama 8, Florida State 9, Virginia Tech 10. But defending champion Baylor Bears 11.
Oh wow!
No respect.
No respect.
None. So that's happening. I want to see more because I think I heard that Seton Hall was in the top 25. Duke 13.
Well, Duke's going to rebuild and reload. That's what they do.
St. Bonaventure 15.
Surprise.
Michigan 17, which is way too low.
Wow.
Kentucky 19.
Okay.
Michigan State 22. Houston 24. And they have a next in line: Tennessee, Wichita State, Notre Dame, Virginia, UConn. This is definitely a moment. This is definitely a moment issue. I definitely see this here already. Also, last week was announced that the Big Three is coming back. So the big three's coming back. Here's my question. How much damage do you think – oh, Joe, Georgetown's on here, bro. Sorry. How much drama and how much pushback do you think the big three might see based on what Ice Cube's kind of – his activities during the presidential election last year? Or do you think it's water under the bridge?
I think it's water under the bridge, now that Biden's in office. I think people forgot about it, to be honest with you. So I think it'll be welcome back, just like I think the XFL is going to be welcome back when they come around next year or the year after. So people are going to be looking for more basketball. Now, the timing might be a little difficult because if we're going to have playoff basketball in July, when we're talking about the big three? We're talking about August, September?
It was, hold on a second. I want to bring it up because they didn't announce the actual dates. It would be, okay, their website is just showing things. Here we go. Well, Nick Young, Swaggy P, he's in the big three. So he's there. At least you got that going. The schedule looks like July 10th through September 4th.
Okay, right as the NBA Finals is winding down. Okay.
Yep. So July 10th, and then week 2, the 17th and 18th. And then after that, it goes one day. And it's all happening in Vegas and Louisiana.
Okay, that could work.
So I'm curious. It's funny you say people forgot because I literally said I heard the big three's coming back, and my initial, I'm at my dining room table reading it. I'm like, fuck him. I didn't forget about it. That's the first thing that popped in my head. Because I'm like, no.
People
I ain't watching this.
People have a very short attention span, especially with social media. They don't forget. It's going to be a journalist who reminds everybody what happened. But other than that, people forgot.
It's gonna be me, goddammit. That's what's gonna be. I'm putting it out there, damn it. Let them know. Yeah, I'm really surprised. I'm looking at the WNBA draft. I'm still surprised that she fell as far as she did. I'm still like in total shock right now. Anyway, we're gonna end the show a little early, but we're gonna end the show early for a reason. We got to talk about WrestleMania weekend. If you don't like wrestling, you can leave. First of all, we got to talk about Black Thursday today.
Oh my goodness, Samoa Joe. Oh, that one hurts.
A lot of people got fired today. Samoa Joe, Chelsea Green, the Iconics, Bo Dallas. Who I'm missing? Mojo Rawley got fired, which I forgot he was still there. What does this mean for someone like a Samoa Joe who, listen, they replaced Samoa Joe essentially with Adnan Virk from ESPN. And now he's unemployed. What does this mean for Samoa Joe in his career?
To me, I want to say they released him pretty much because he's probably in no condition to wrestle anytime soon. And at that point, they were like, okay, we're paying him a wrestler salary, but he's really been doing commentating for the last year. So I get it. I see a lot of pushback on social media of like why they released Samoa Joe. But I can see him go to AEW if they're really serious about doing a second show. I can see him doing commentating there until he's healthy enough to wrestle. Yeah,
it took Christian, 8 years to come back from his concussion issue? So I don't foresee him waiting it out. I think he's like 42 right now. So I don't foresee him waiting out 8 years. But listen, if Christian come back, and apparently his concussion issues were really bad.
It was bad, yeah.
So maybe you wait a couple of years and see what happens. I'm curious about the women because the AEW women's division isn't exactly great.
They could use the Iconics immediately. Whereas WWE, those kind of women were more like divas in terms of what they could do in the ring. So I kind of see why they got rid of them, considering that pipeline you have at NXT. So I get the Iconics being booted out.
Well, no, Wrestling Observer, they make a point. They're like, you literally have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler fighting Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke 100 times in a week.
Yeah.
Why did you break up the Iconics in the first place? What was the point? What was the point of breaking up Otis and Tucker to put Otis in another tag team? It makes no sense. Sometimes the logic of the company makes no sense to me. And it's like you're doing all these moves like you have a plan, but then when you make the move, you pull the trick, you're like, wait, we don't know what we're doing. We don't really have a plan.
Yep.
So it makes no sense. Or not Tucker, Tucky. I like when Tucky. WrestleMania. Listen, night 1, epic.
Phenomenal.
Night two was a Raw taping. That's how I compare it. Night 2, the main event was really good.
Yeah.
But night 2 was a Raw taping. That was not a great night at all.
Yeah, night 1 took out all. It was well booked. The women's main event was excellent. It was a good card. Cesaro and Seth Rollins was a good match. It was a good match. I was even entertained with Shane McMahon and Braun. That was pleasant. It was a pleasant surprise.
That was my pee. That was my pee break.
It was a pleasant surprise. But I love the Roman booking. I think you have to keep the belt on him I think you have to keep it on him a minimum to next WrestleMania.
That long?
I think you have to build somebody up. Now's the time we build someone to challenge Roman.
Big E. Big E's the guy.
That's what I think too.
Mm-hmm. Big E should be that person that they took the belt off of him already.
Yep.
Which the Apollo Crews thing I'm still not like sold on with the accent. If you just did Apollo Crews in this gimmick, has heel Nigerian prince, good. You add the Akeem from Zamunda accent. That's when I got a problem with it. And I'm like, okay, now we're veering off a little bit into like some racist type shit.
Yeah.
Like you're getting too stereotypical. Kofi with the Jamaican accent when he came in. I'm like, that's where we're going right now. Did you watch the Jericho Stone Cold thing?
Oh, I did. I enjoyed it.
Listen, I saw it was 2 hours and 7 minutes. I was like, oh shit, because I have 90 minutes tops in my head. I'm like 90 minutes, and I'm done. It was very engaging, and it kept me interested because to know that he wrote down every single match he's had, which I don't know if that's true. I'm still like, is that really true? Did you really write down every single match you've had in 30 years? I don't believe it. But just there was a lot of AEW talk, which I was not expecting.
I was surprised by that.
The first 10 minutes, and then the last 10 minutes, he bookended it. But Austin did a really good job with the interview. They were taking shots, so they were feeling nice.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear the relationship that he had with Vince McMahon, and to hear that relationship is kind of gone now, was very interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, Vince is Vince, and like I think CM Punk said it best. I think to have that interview, Vince he doesn't think highly of AEW. He's like, yeah, whatever, you can have the guy come on the show. It's not a problem.
Meanwhile, AEW last night, remember NXT moved to Tuesday. I think they got like 800,000 on Tuesday unopposed.
Mm-hmm.
AEW last night, 1.2 million. 0.88 in the 1849 demo. So in my head, maybe the Jericho interview did more harm than good for Vince.
I think you're right.
Where people might have checked it out and said, what is that? Let's look for it. And now you got one. That's one because they got 700,000 last week.
Mm-hmm.
Their numbers fell off a lot. You go from 700 plus to 1.2. I'm like, oh shit! I think Jericho might have gave them that boost.
Yeah,
and Stone Cold.
I agree. I can see that.
And this week's Raw after WrestleMania, usually the best Raw of the year, was hot garbage.
The
worst Raw of the year by far. Like this is the world where people make the appearance, they make their debuts, you see returns, you see like crazy shit happening. I'm like, oh, this case something crazy will happen. Brock might come back. Nothing happened. We saw the Viking Raiders come back, and that was it.
I have hope for SmackDown on Friday, but yeah, I don't know.
I have no hope whatsoever for SmackDown or for this company, especially when they announce their earnings and they're going to say how much money they made after they just fired 18 people.
Speaking of WWE, I want to give a big shout out to Xavier Woods. I did an interview with him yesterday about the relaunch of G4. We talk about a little wrestling. I'm gonna send you the recording so you can hear it. And he made up a great point about why video games and esports are so dominant now. And I didn't think about it. He pretty much said, if you think about it, all the adults now, we were heavy gamers back as kids. So that never changed. So therefore, the money and investment into gaming industry only grew over that time. I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I never looked at it like that.
So is G4 going to be like a network, or is it going to be like online or Twitch, or how's that going to work?
It's going to be a network. It's going to be back on Twitch online. He's going to host a show on it that doesn't interrupt his up, down, down. That's still going to be a good thing there. And he did say Adam Cole is the best gamer outside himself in the WWE.
Wow, I wasn't expecting Adam Cole. Well, I saw the trailer for the new WWE, and I'm not impressed at all.
Which is funny because I think we get an AEW game this year too.
No, early 2022.
Oh, that'll suck if that game is better than the one that WWE presented.
Well, it's funny because the rumor is that they're not going to have a next gen release. It's only going to be PS4, Xbox One.
That's a bad sign.
That's the rumor. I don't know if it's true, but the rumor I saw on Twitter was like, there's not going to be a next gen release for, which I'm like, you're already shooting yourself in the foot already.
Yep.
So that's, poor guys. They suck. Anywho, Jason, as always, great show.
Likewise.
So we'll be back next Thursday night here on the Just Hoop Talk YouTube channel. The podcast, which wasn't out last week because I was stuck with my daughter by myself for 4 days last weekend, wasn't able to get it out. It'll be out tomorrow, so you can check out the podcast on Spotify, on iTunes. We'll be back next Thursday with a playoff picture. Probably changes 18 more times between now and then. Rest in peace, DMX. Thank you, Joe, for reminding me. Rest in peace, DMX, Earl Simmons, who passed away.
Yes.
I was rocking out to DMX in my house. So my wife wasn't here over the weekend. So, and obviously he passed away over the weekend last weekend. And my daughter, who's 1, was watching cartoons. And I turned them off and put on YouTube and was just blasting Money Cash Hoes, which are probably not a good thing to play with a 1-year-old girl. But whenever I did, what? She was like, start cracking up laughing. I'm like, got her. Done. So she's a forever DMX fan. So rest in peace, DMX. For Jason, I'm Kahlil. We'll see you next Thursday night here on the Just Hoop Talk channel. Peace.